Well, it's been a long 5 weeks, but we want to thank, first off, all of you, the thousands of you who have commented and sent us messages letting us know that you're thinking of us and that you hoped that our situation would improve and you didn't know what was going on. And today we're going to tell you what was going on and also have a frank discussion about a topic that has quite a stigma.
Judging by the title of the video, you have an idea of what it is about. It's a very personal story. It is now our story as well as millions of others. And we're just very passionate about talking about it and sharing it with you all. It's gonna be a hard one.
Yeah. So I guess let's take you back to January.
Maybe even before then, last fall is really when we made the decision after, at that point it was 3 years of full-time travel, going to amazing places all over the world, that we were ready to share that with a little person. And so we were ready to start trying to grow our family. And yeah, we were excited and, you know, hopeful for the future. And January came. It was actually December 31st, New Year's Eve, and I decided to take a pregnancy test and see what would happen, because I was like, oh, on the off chance that I don't want to have, you know, a bunch of drinks or anything, and it came back positive. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is crazy. And I was in shock.
Our understanding of our physiological backgrounds, it could have been a challenge.
I had all these like grand ideas in my head, you know, that one day when this happened, like how I would tell Howard and I would record it and it would be like, you know, this like Instagram perfect thing. And I just like panicked. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to tell him. It was like New Year's Eve, Friday morning. And, we were getting ready to walk the dogs. And so I recorded, I mean, you can see this video, and this was really important to share for us too, because even though the outcome hasn't been what we wanted, these are such happy memories for us. And we were going to share them if it had been a happy outcome. And so because we were so excited, we do want to share this with you guys. And so I was like, I'll just leave the pregnancy test in the bathroom. And I think I said to you, like
go look in the bathroom. You want me to go look in the bathroom?
Yeah.
What? I mean, honestly, like, there wasn't nearly the... You know how people will do the setups, and you've probably seen those, like, videos where, like, somebody takes, like, a pregnancy test and then, like, makes it into, like, an ice cream or whatever. Like,
that. I would never do
just
that.
wild ideas about, like, how to reveal to your partner that you're pregnant or you're expecting. And that wasn't this at all. 4 to 9 tests later, I was convinced
at that point.
Yeah.
Those couple of days, like the first few days of 2022, we were on like a super high, and it was awesome. And like, you know, we started making plans. We were already on our way to Florida. And so we're like, we were going to have new health insurance in Florida. And so we're like, we'll just find, you know, an OB and we'll go get, you know, looked at and all this stuff. And then,
because it was only 4 days later.
A couple days. Yeah. We had made it to Florida, and, I wasn't having any cramping, no symptoms or anything, and I started bleeding. And at first it was just a little, and so we weren't too concerned, and then overnight it took a turn for the worse. And I just remember just saying to you, like, it's over. And just, you know, you go from top of the world to just despair. And
well, and we didn't necessarily know what to do.
Mm-mm.
The reaction was like, well, is this like too much bleeding? Is this like, we didn't know like what a normal miscarriage would be.
Right. And it's different for everybody too.
Right.
And it was alarming, and you know, you read online and you're trying to figure out, well, what is normal, what isn't. And the first day, it wasn't too bad, but then I remember on that second night, it just got really intense and really bad. And so just out of an abundance of caution, there was a hospital, I think 15 minutes away, and so we went. And they confirmed that it was a miscarriage and there was nothing that could be done, which we knew, but we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't ectopic, that things, were just, that my body was doing what it was supposed to in a natural way. Mm-hmm. So.
And we already had the appointment scheduled for the OB because we were like, okay, let's go. Like, we're doing this, and like Caitlin had mentioned, we set up insurance in Florida specifically for a policy that would cover pregnancy, was affordable, and we thought like we had figured out the timing, and we were like, okay, like if we're pregnant right now, that means baby will be due within the year, and we go to visit the OB, and at that point it was just kind of like well, you're not pregnant now, come back when you're pregnant.
The doctor didn't even really examine me because I had just had an ultrasound and blood work and all of that stuff while I was in the hospital a couple of days prior. And so she basically was just like, this happens. There's nothing wrong with you that we know of. Just try again. And, it's it's really hard to hear that because you're grasping for answers. And, like, you just want to know if there was something that could have been done. And the truth is, a lot of times this just happens because it was not going to be a viable pregnancy, plain and simple.
Right. And I think that part of the reason why we wanted to have this discussion with you all is because it is so common, and we really do want to help reduce and eliminate the stigma of a miscarriage.
And it was something that I think helped me so much in January, was going on the internet and just reading other women's stories. Women, who just have so eloquently described their feelings or what got them through it, or YouTube videos. And I just, reading blogs, like I clung to their words like it was the Bible. Like I read and I read and I read, and that really helped pull me through to know that I wasn't alone. And so if we can help one woman, one family going through this, not feel alone, or, understand that this is common, and normalize talking about it, like that is so important for me. And it was really important for us to do this together. In watching a bunch of YouTube videos and reading stories, there wasn't a lot of men in the videos, quite frankly. And this is an experience, like this has affected you deeply too. And I just appreciate you so much for going through it with me and being willing to talk about it.
I think about, of the people that we do know that have had a miscarriage, actually a majority of them, it resulted in the degrading of their relationship, and in some cases divorce. And that is just so heavy, and that just weighed on me so much that it's like, I don't want that to happen to us. I don't want this to be what begins our downfall as a couple. And so I really wanted to make sure that we were staying positive about it, and that any level of support either one of us needed, we were able to get. And I'm so thankful that we have made it this far. And that's just the first miscarriage.
Yeah.
Because obviously we had another.
So that leads us to where we've been recently. When the doctor told us that there was nothing wrong, and that as soon as we felt mentally ready to start trying again, we could. And, for me, I think it was part of the healing process because I had read so many success stories, and because the statistics say that most women who have a miscarriage, their next pregnancy will be totally fine. I held on to that and latched onto that hope so much. And yeah, we just kind of were like, let's just see what happens. And again, it happened quickly. April 5th was the day that I found out I was pregnant again. And this time I had a little bit, Howard was actually out of the RV. And so I was like, okay, I have about 45 minutes to figure something out to tell him in a more creative way.
It's a do-over. It's a do-over, right? I mean, hey, let's look to the advantage of this.
Right.
Like Caitlin has done this once before now. let's try it again.
Right.
So she had this elaborate plan.
I wouldn't call it a lot. Again, it was about a 45-minute, what can I do?
It was pretty elaborate. It was pretty elaborate because kind of like a scavenger hunt where there were clues around the RV. But definitely there was one in the pantry.
There was one on the door so that when you came in.
Oh, that's what it was.
It was like a rhyme, so everyone rhymed. Yeah, which led you over to the pantry and had you turn around, and then I handed him the final one, which was wrapped with the positive pregnancy test.
But it was not inside of a popsicle. But
and I remember when you said this time, you're like, again.
I did. Well, again, it felt so fast. It felt like we were somehow just like beating the odds because, you know, I in the back of my mind, I just keep thinking that this is going to be really hard for us. It's just going to be really hard for us because that's what we've been told. And we're talking within just a couple of days, you suddenly started feeling terrible.
Yeah, everything was fine the first couple of weeks of the pregnancy. And I was like, this is great. Like, and even things felt differently from the first time in January. And so I was super hopeful. I was like, this is going to be the one. Like, this is going to be it. We're going to have a baby in December. Like, it's going to be great. We'll get our 2022 baby still. And I mean, we both were really hopeful. We were starting to make plans. We had plans to go back to Florida again, you know, for doctor's appointments and everything. And yeah, I just suddenly took a turn for the worse. And I have never in my life been so sick. And that's kind of why initially we dropped off the face of the earth. I was bedridden. I was so nauseous. I couldn't eat. I could barely like shower. Howard had to do literally everything for me. And then I was sleeping all day. You know, I couldn't work. I mean, literally I was bedridden. And
at this point, because we were in New Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. We had to do something about it. So we were already traveling back east because we knew that we needed to be in Florida for, again, our first OB appointment. Because here we're starting the cycle again. So we're going to have our first OB appointment with the same OB. And that wasn't for, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so we went and found a doctor in Texas because not only were you like really nauseous, but you were also in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
A lot of pain.
Back
like
pain and
it was really pain. Like, yeah, it couldn't have been any different than the first time. Mm-hmm. And that scared us. And so we go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, well, let's just, you know, run a full gamut of tests because we don't know if necessarily it's your pregnancy. It could be just, you know,
she's like,
maybe you have an infection.
Right, check like your gallbladder and some other things. And so they did like a full abdominal ultrasound, full pelvic ultrasound, blood work, the whole gamut. And then we kind of had to wait and for them to call us with the results. She said things were measuring perfectly. Everything looked on par for when, you know, my last period was, and that, you know, it was measuring at 7 weeks and 1 day, and everything looked fine, except they couldn't find a heartbeat. They said there was no cardiac activity. And so I just went numb. And she reiterated, she was like, it's still early. You need to have another ultrasound done in a week or two. And I can't definitively say that this is going to be another miscarriage. And so, you know, we were actually driving. Howard was driving. And so we pulled over, and I'm explaining this to Howard, and I just lost it.
Well, because to me, it was more questions than answers.
And the one thing that was pulling me through that sickness was knowing what we were fighting for, knowing what my body was fighting for, and that, you know, that I could get through it because we were growing our little human. And then to potentially have that not be the case was just devastating. And so, yeah, it was, I mean, being sick and then being like depressed on top of it was really hard.
And the way that she was feeling, I mean, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. As you said, it was debilitating. Caitlin was getting prescribed different medications because they didn't know how to really handle this because her symptoms were so severe, it was like crippling.
Yeah.
There are certain medications which are inconclusive as to whether or not they are safe or not if you are pregnant. And so their recommendations were based around what they perceived to be the safest. We noticed that Caitlin was taking one drug in particular that she had been prescribed, and it was literally knocking her out. Like she was.
I mean, I was already a zombie, but this was next level.
She was becoming like narcoleptic. She literally would wake up and then go to sleep. and sleep and sleep and sleep.
And I am not a napper. Like, normally I'm like, go, go, go. Like, always want to be productive, never taking naps.
Right.
And this was very different. And the medicine, it was like, take it every 12 hours.
Yep.
So 24 hours straight, I'm knocked out. And so I decided one day, like on the third day, I'm like, I'm just going to Google this medicine, which had I been in my normal state of mind, I would have done from the beginning and like read about it and everything, but I was so desperate to just feel some relief. Well, it was a heavy sedative that is used to treat insomnia that also can help nausea.
The key is, it helps your nausea because you're out.
Yeah. So I was
totally unconscious.
And so I told Howard, I said, I'm just not taking this anymore. Like, I will figure it out. I mean, guys, like, we live in an RV, right? Like, there's stuff when we move, and we were having to move to get back to Florida, like, I have to physically help Howard. Like, I had to get up and at least move to the front seat.
At least get out of the way so that way you can bring the slide in. With the way that Caitlin was feeling and the amount of energy that I was expending trying to literally cater to any need that she had, we couldn't focus on anything else. Mm-mm. No work, no real communication with the outside world.
No, my family didn't even know what was going on.
It was just draining. And we're still trying to get from Texas all the way to Florida to the St. Pete area while dealing with this. And that was really, really hard. And I am so thankful that our clients, because we provide marketing and communication services, that's how we make a living. Our clients have been, even right now, incredibly patient with us and understood that we just needed time to sort this all out and get our lives back in order before we could even really reapproach and re-engage with our livelihoods. And then on the personal side, we weren't messaging with other people. We weren't talking to people on the phone. We were basically we were
in a bubble.
Yeah. A bubble is a great way to put it. Yeah. And so that's why between the physical and the mental, we weren't publishing any videos. We weren't doing any episodes.
I mean, I couldn't even look at a phone for a minute, let alone sit at a computer and edit.
Yeah. It just wasn't going to happen. And we just needed to pause. So Flo Rida is a award-winning musician. And
you have to keep your sense of humor through this kind of stuff.
It's also the name of a state.
So we finally made it to Flo Rida. And I had started to feel a little bit better to the point where I could actually function. I still couldn't really eat much, but I mean, I wasn't like bedridden, dying on the couch anymore. And
you were still very nauseous, though.
I was still very sick. But we made it to the appointment. The wait was over. And I remember the doctor coming into the office. And this is a new doctor. Like, we had seen her the one time in January. And so she still hasn't really ever examined me before. And I remember it was just kind of like word vomit because we had to tell her everything that had happened in Texas. Because you go in there for your first appointment and they're, you know, like, okay, this is great. Like, you know, this is what we're going to do. And we had to be like, wait, this is not a normal first appointment. Like, we already have all of this information and these questions and this big question mark. And so she's like, well, I have a really old ultrasound machine here. It's not the kind that we need to do to really see anything, but let's take a look and just see. And so she did. And because it was such an old machine, she couldn't see a whole lot, but she's like, from what I can see, it doesn't look great, but you do need to have another type of ultrasound. So we were able to get an appointment within about an hour and a half at another facility that just does ultrasounds and MRIs and like imaging and that kind of stuff. And normally, the techs don't really go over things with you, and you have to kind of wait for a radiologist to read it and then report back to the doctor. But I was so thankful that this tech explained everything that I was looking at. And at that point, it was just an empty gestational sac. There wasn't anything that was viable.
So we don't even know necessarily what the first ultrasound, or I should say like the radiologist who reviewed it, even saw.
In Texas.
In Texas, yeah.
Right. But it was, I mean, clear as day. The size of the gestational sac at that point was about 9 weeks. And so that was measuring correctly, but there was just nothing there. And I think because of everything that I had gone through in January and knowing that this was a possibility because of what we had learned coming out of the Texas appointment, I think I had had that time between those two ultrasounds to really mentally prepare myself. I was still devastated. But I mean, I just came out because Howard couldn't even go back with me.
Because of COVID, they were only allowing the actual patient to be in the room or even to be in the facility.
When I came out and I told you, and I remember we just hugged. And we went and got food because I was actually like, my appetite was coming back and I just emotionally ate. And it was like, okay, we just need to figure out like what's next. And that has been almost as difficult as the entire situation. The past week has been hell, to put it mildly. So the next big hurdle is that my body was still thinking it was pregnant and had not recognized this as a loss to start the miscarriage. And that in and of itself, that is mental anguish, because like I'm still sick on top of it all. I know that there is nothing that is going to come of this pregnancy, and yet my body won't do what it needs to do. And so I was able to get medication from my doctor to basically speed the miscarriage along.
Yeah.
And I was very thankful for that. Unfortunately, after 2 doses, it failed, which is very rare, but can happen. And so I had to go in for another ultrasound and confirmed that everything was still in place and it did not in fact work. And as weird as this sounds, I was very thankful that I knew what to expect from a miscarriage because of everything I had just gone through in January. I knew that something wasn't right with my body and that there should have been a lot more things that were happening. And so I was just really glad for that intuition and that experience, because I knew I needed to be seen again. The challenging thing is that we had to start traveling again. We have to be in the north by a certain point for work, and we have to get back to work. That we had to find another doctor's office while on the road, and that's been really hard. So we found one that would help us, that would give me the ultrasound, and they confirmed that everything was still in place. And so I had 2 options: do another round of the medication, risk it not working again, or have a surgical procedure. And at that point, I asked what their professional medical opinion was. And because my body had not taken to the medicine before, and I didn't want to go through that again mentally, I opted to have the surgery. And that, was not a fun process. It was really hard. But he was there for me every step of the way. And I immediately, within the next 24 hours, physically started feeling better. I've been able to start to mentally heal. It's going to be a long road, but just being able to feel like myself again was something that was so necessary and important to begin that healing process. And I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for the doctors, for these dogs. Yeah. So, this is the beginning of the next phase of that, which is really important in taking care of myself, taking care of us and our relationship, and just kind of moving forward. So.
Okay.
I told myself I wasn't going to cry. Trying not to. Cried a lot over the past month and a half.
I do want to at least touch on the difficulties, particularly if you're a nomad, of how do you even navigate this, because as we've just described, we have had appointments in New Mexico, Texas, Florida, Georgia. Mm-hmm. We've had 4 different states where we've had appointments or at least a touch point with some type of medical professional. That's really hard. And particularly the last time we had to travel 5 hours round trip just to get Caitlin the care that she needed. And I will certainly say this too, because you might be asking, Well, was it the best decision for us to have an OB in Florida? Well, the truth is, it wouldn't have mattered where we had an OB because we would still be traveling back and forth. We like to joke because Caitlin is identified as a geriatric mother. This would be a geriatric pregnancy, I guess.
With the ripe old age of 35.
Yeah. But that also required that we would be returning back to Florida far more often. In fact, our OB was recommending a cadence of, what was it, once a month. And then at the third trimester, it would go to every 2 weeks. And then the last month, it would be every week. That's a lot of traveling back and forth to Florida or to wherever. And so now I can completely understand why so many people who are full-time RVers, boaters, other nomads choose to stop traveling. They will instead hunker down close by to doctors and support and family in order to get through the process of a pregnancy.
Unfortunately, the office I was seeing in Florida wasn't going to be able to see me again until a certain point, and like we had to make a decision. Do we hit the road again or not? And so that's why we found ourselves in this situation. We know that traveling full time isn't the norm, but it's becoming more of a norm, and there are millions of people who do it. And so, those are real challenges. The other thing is, there are, without getting into the weeds of like healthcare, there's only so many policies that will even cover pregnancy right now. And for people who are self-employed, that was a whole nother challenge. And so we thought we had found, and we did find a plan that was great for what we needed at the time. But yeah, there were just all of these other layers of complication.
We've had a lot of unexpected visits already, out of pocket, to various tiers of doctors, urgent cares, and emergency rooms. Okay, that leads us, I think, to where do we go from here? Both physically, mentally, and also, frankly, for the Newstate Nomads and for our channel. Getting it out of the way, we are resuming travel. We do have new filming planned. We are going to get back into it, but it's going to take some time. And we appreciate not just your patience thus far, but as we work our way back towards having regular episodes, I think there's still going to be some bumps in the road.
Yeah. Gosh, but you guys, like, our community, I have never felt so loved from complete strangers. We have a wonderful support system in our family and our friends, but to know that so many of you care about us and our little furry family, and, we're so concerned when we hadn't, been out there in the internet world. Like, we were just talking about this at dinner the other night. That to me is just astonishing and lifted our spirits when we needed it. Like, we were, at rock bottom, and to just read your comments and your well wishes and your prayers, and just know that so many people were in our corner and didn't even know what was going on. Like, gosh, thank you.
It's just so many layers. It's like, yes, we have our close friends, our family, Newstate Navigators, our support community, and then all of you, and in most cases, the messages that we're receiving are from people we have never met, we have never spoken to, but yet you cared, and for that we thank you
so much. Like, thank you just doesn't even seem adequate. It's just from the bottom of our hearts. You guys just have kept us going. So where do we go from here? What does our journey to parenthood look like? We don't really know at this point. I think the number one most important thing for us is to heal. My body has been through a lot in the past 4 months. My just mental and emotional state, that is a big part of it too. And I have a lot of PTSD from how sick I was and just what I've had to endure the past 2 weeks physically. So, for me, it's just really important to get back to feeling like myself and focusing on me and focusing on us as a couple. That's really important. And I have some, we have some ideas as to what there could be a possible problem, and we have to see a specialist. That's our next step. I'm nowhere near ready mentally to do that. And unfortunately, it's not covered by insurance. So we have a lot to figure out, but that's going to be, I think, down the road. And right now, part of what is lifting our spirits and pulling us through is that we have a lot of really exciting things that we're passionate about coming up this year. And so we're really like looking to the positive and looking forward to getting back to what really drives and fuels us, which is travel and telling stories and sharing experiences. And so we have a lot of like really awesome stuff coming up for the remainder of the year that was kind of already in the works prior to this. And thank goodness for that, because we have stuff to look forward to.
It is a drive, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it really
seeing
is.
and knowing what's coming, and we can't wait to share with you what these entail. It is something that motivationally has provided us that lift to really help us focus on moving past this. And I do want to thank you all again for how much support we've received from you. But we also want to hear your stories as well. And we hope that this has helped to reduce some of the stigma regarding miscarriage and regarding the difficulties of pregnancy. And that it's not always rainbows and sunshine. So I do want to express to all of you, if you have a story and you want to share that story, put it in the comments below.
Thank goodness, like if you are a woman who is going through something similar and you found this video or you found our story and I am an open book. I will talk to you. Like, please message me. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I find it very cathartic and healing to be able to talk about it. And, you know, I want to help because so many other women have helped me and reached out to me during this. So please, yeah, like, I'm here.
So that's all from us for right now.
That was a lot. If you're still here, thanks.
Thanks for letting us unpack that. As Caitlin said, it is cathartic to be able to talk about it.
It is. And you know, these are big, heavy things, but we can all learn from each other. And when you go through stuff like this, either individually or as a couple or as a community or whatever it may be, you know, this is part of our story now. These things do change you fundamentally in some way or another. And, you know, for me, and I hope this can help somebody else too, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad, but do not stay there. Do not stay in that dark place. That is very important. Find a way to work through it. Find your support system. Just
communicate.
Yes. Yeah, if you can, like that's really important.
If you are curious about where we are or what's happening, just make sure you stay on our social media because we will be posting updates. Particularly,
we do miss our community, and we want to get back to that. And we've started to a little bit, and it feels really good. Like, gosh, it feels good to be able to look at a phone and not like have the room spinning. You know, be able to connect with so many of you all again. It's just been incredible, and you know, to our navigator community, thank you. You guys have been there for us, reached out, helped us in many ways, and yeah, we're really excited to get back to what makes us us. And I love you.
I love you. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll start seeing episodes from us really soon. So long for now.